Welcome to People First Builders, celebrating leaders in construction who build success through their people. My name is Fletcher Wimbush, your host. I'm the CEO of Discover.ai, a performance hiring software helping small and mid-sized AEC companies solve their hardest problem, people. We help people first leaders install and execute repeatable talent acquisition systems that drive business results by hiring top performers, lowering turnover, and building world-class company cultures. Stick around to the end and you can learn more about how to become a guest on our podcast and share your story with the world. Welcome to the People First Builders podcast. I'm Fletcher Wimbush, your host. Today I have Paige Byrd. She is the co-president of Thiel Team, a seasoned expert in amenities-focused interior design and architecture. Over 3 decades of experience, she has led numerous high-profile design projects that combine elegance, functionality, and a deep understanding of client vision. Today, they're just wrapping up a phenomenal project, the Baker Hotel and Spa portfolio. And so we're going to have the opportunity to talk about how Paige has built the dream team to build the dream property. So where did this project start, and help us understand, especially as a designer and architect. I mean, you've got to have a phenomenal team to pull something like this off, right? Talk about maybe just a little bit about the project and just how that came to be. And then let's talk about, how you built the team to make this come alive.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Fletcher, for having me on. If there's one thing I can talk about, it's about this company and the amazing work that we do. So we'll just jump right in.
Yeah.
So interesting. The Baker, we've been working on that project for a long time. And when I say a long time, literally coming up on 2 decades since we had our first site visit out there. And it started really with the dream of these developers that this amazing building, in the middle of Mineral Wells, which is, a small town about, an hour's drive from the Metroplex of Dallas-Fort Worth. And it calls to you when you start entering, when you go over this little hill on your way into Mineral Wells, you see it just towering over the town, and it's beautiful, and had been closed since the 70s. And over the course of time, obviously, had fallen into some disrepair, and a group of individuals that just have a passion for this community and for the town and this building, they just really wouldn't stop until they got it to a point that they could get this project off the ground. And it was a really big lift.
Yeah.
So we did our first site visit out there. I think our first site visits on our server 2008.
Wow.
Just to get familiar with the building and kind of start working with them to kind of cast a vision for what the hotel could be.
Talked about like kind of back from you started talking about this project in 2008,
Right. Yeah. So we started talking about it and just getting some visuals together for the development team to go out and start getting some interest and seeing, how they could potentially fundraise to make the project happen. And, over the course of time, we had the kind of a larger lift in the beginning. We had done some hand renderings and essentially some conceptual design boards. And then it just kind of sat, and we waited, and the group went out and they raised some money. And over the course of time, a few years would pass and it would kind of pop up again, and they would be on to the next round of funding and, what their next path to success could look like. And they were really adamant about making sure that they were moving forward. So we continued to work with them. And when things would come up, we would revise and adjust and build budgets that they needed for us to build. And then, back in 2019, they really made some strides to get the building to a point that they could start working through some demo and getting the building cleaned up. So now, they're still working through the demo and abatement. It's a massive building.
Wow.
And we were officially given the green light in 2024 to get the project off the ground.
Wow.
So it's required every single person on our team. Because as these things happen, it's like you have this really, really long runway, and then when it's time to go, you have to get in the air quickly.
Get moving, yeah.
And
so
yeah,
how's your firm, how's it evolved over those years? I mean, yeah, 20 almost 20 years of working on this, right? I imagine maybe you had some interns back then helping you on this project, right? Possibly,
yeah,
right?
yeah. We have been really lucky to maintain our core team that started working on this project from the very beginning. And that's been really special for all of us to be able to remain, involved in the project. As we've grown, we've been really lucky. We've been able to rise above some really hard challenges. For our industry, COVID was really, really hard.
Yeah.
The recession in 2010, gosh, that was really, really hard. And then even the past couple of years with economic slowdown in commercial real estate, we've really focused on diversifying and making sure that we have a good project mix within our portfolio. And we really have made sure that as we've brought in new talent, not only are our new teammates great fits for our culture and how we work, but they're also experts in their field, and they bring a plethora of expertise and portfolio, amazing portfolios with them, from work that they've done previously within the hospitality industry, historic preservation, adaptive reuse. And so we've built this incredible dream team that we have, all of the different subject matter experts in place to make sure we can get it done and get it done well.
Yeah. So through all, I mean, especially in the construction space and then in the design space, obviously, can be greatly affected by these different economic, environments. And so retaining a team obviously is a challenge. A, economically, can you afford to do it? But, B, some of that, when those times happen, the team feels the slowdown, or if there is any sort of pullback, then that just there's always can be an emotional effect of that if other people are leaving the team. What are like one or two things that you feel like you all have done that particularly well in order to keep your best people engaged and retain them over this time despite ups and downs, uncertainties, and things like that?
We very much approach everything as a team. And my partner, Elissa Stevenson, she and I both really have a heart for like walking the walk. And we're very transparent. And that's hard, especially in times when it's, news is uncertain. We are in the boat with our team. We're transparent about where we're at. And people see that. They see the hard work. They see the grit, and they see the strategy behind it.
Yeah. What would be an example of that transparency, you think, that where it's really, shown and helped you, keep your team engaged and excited?
Well, I don't know if engaged and excited. It's the mentality that we're in the boat together and we have to row in the same direction to get where we're going.
Yeah.
And, we never want to be a group that people are surprised, like, yeah, you're getting a raise, and then 2 weeks later, people are getting laid off.
Yeah.
That's not how we operate, and that's not how we will ever operate. And a good example of that is, when we were forecasting over the past year what it was going to be looking like, and we knew what was in our pipeline and what our revenue targets were, we did everything that we could to eliminate any sort of unnecessary spend. That was number one.
Yeah.
And number two, we knew what we had to do with the planning that we've had in place, because Elissa and I have done this for long enough. We know you have to have healthy cash reserves in order to be able to survive in this business. And so we had planned for it. We prepped for it. We knew one day it would happen. And so we knew, what our forecast was, and we were honest with our team about that. Yeah. And our strategy was, if everybody can take a 10% cut and pay for certain amount of time, it was time bound, And then leadership took a little bit more. This is when we feel like, based on what we have coming in, we'll be able to get back to normal. And we knew that, there were going to be some people that they couldn't make that work, and that was fine. But we wanted them to be able to make that choice for themselves and their families.
Yeah.
We owe that to them, and people just needed to be able to plan for it and make the best decision that they could. And we supported everybody that needed to make those choices and leave. And then a lot of people were like, you know what, that this is fine. We can plan for it. With the reduction in pay, we also reduced hours because we weren't as busy.
Yeah.
So we weren't asking people to do the same amount for less. We're like, okay, if we're taking a reduction in pay, in the summertime, guess what? You're going to get your Friday afternoons back. Yeah. And people actually really liked that. There were a couple that had even said, I might kind of want to do this.
Yeah.
I'll
take that trade off, long term. There's always been some interesting studies around, reduced hours, say a 32-hour work week or something like that, or a 4-day work week. Maybe it's 40, 4/10s, things like that.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the arguments are, hey, that improves productivity, right? When you have sort of less time to get things done, you sort of have this, it's like before going on vacation, right? You just get like so much more done, right? But if every week is like that, then, there's this sort of this idea. I'm reading the 12-week year. In fact, it's actually talking about that, but there's the 4-Day Work Week Institute who really, digs into research around productivity and these things as well. So have you noticed any sort of measurable difference in productivity, despite these changes, making these changes?
Well, like I said, it was time bound. So we're back to normal now. And we're busy. So, I mean, for us, it's just kind of,
but back then during that time when you guys kind of scaled back and you asked people to work less hours, did you notice that, we're still getting the same amount of work done, for example, right? Or did you notice it?
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't as much work coming in, which is, while we were in the position that we were in, but the work was definitely getting done. On top of people like investing the time, if they didn't have a project to be, billing towards, they were trying to pick up a new skill, like honing skill in Revit or working on learning how to put together custom furniture RFQs. So people were getting creative with how to spend that time, or, just learning more about new product. Yeah. So that was something that, as busy as we can be in this industry, it's kind of like when you have a little bit of a slowdown, you do have to have that mental kind of switch to say, okay, this isn't doom and gloom. We can view this as an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, reinvest in yourself. Right?
Yeah, invest in yourself a little bit, invest in your team. And we did see some of that. And it was really, really great to see. And like I said, when it was time, everybody was kind of getting back to it. We had the conversation, okay, if everybody likes this Friday afternoon kind of flex, if we want to manipulate our hours Monday through Thursday, then let's do that. If you really need that Friday afternoon to decompress and have a couple of hours to yourself, if you're picking up kids after school. And I feel like for mental and emotional health, so many of us need it, and it's almost impossible to find that time.
Yeah, exactly. So creating a space there. What have you done to attract talent, over the years, and, any strategies that have worked particularly well for you?
Our strategy, it's interesting, we're a medium-sized boutique firm. So a lot of what we offer is tailored to, the size of the firm. Sometimes we can't be as competitive, with, the type of insurance or some of the things that the big guys do. But what we do have is we've remained flexible. And while so many people have been called back to the office, for 4 days a week, 5 days a week, we're staying in our remote hybrid environment because it works for us. When COVID happened and we were pretty much overnight forced to work from home, we really didn't miss a beat. We all had a laptop. We had to do a couple of things with our server to make sure everybody could connect. But we just kind of picked up and continued doing what we were doing every other day. But instead of meeting in person, we were meeting on Teams. Yeah. And the cool thing about it that it really allowed us to do is expand our team beyond the Metroplex. We have a vet, a TNT veteran. She's been with us for a few years, and she's in Houston. And, she was used to the remote work, but it opened up our hiring pool to bring in the right person that doesn't necessarily live in DFW.
Yeah.
And our projects aren't just in DFW. So it actually works best for us when we have people kind of scattered about.
Yeah.
And we can still remain connected throughout the day through technology.
So prior to COVID, you guys already had some hybrid, remote, flex type arrangements already going. And when COVID happened, it was relatively easy to flip that switch, then it sounds like.
Well, before COVID, we were in the office. I mean, we had a couple of remote workers, but the majority of us, we were here and we were in the office 5 days a week, from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting switch. It wasn't as painful as we thought it was going to be. And there was so much good that came from it.
Yeah.
There's challenges, there's always challenges with any sort of change, but there's been a lot of beauty in it.
Yeah. Well, I don't see a lot of like design or consulting engineering firms, really embrace that super flex or hybrid type of environment. It's pretty rare because, it is such a collaborative environment to be in. But so how have you been able to, maintain collaboration in a more remote type of operation in a world that, where you see, I would think that many of your competitors, they're very resistant to doing this.
Yeah, absolutely they are. We respect our team as the professionals that they are. And when they need to collaborate and meet up at the office, they get to the office and, the materials are there, the samples are there. But also in our industry, there is a great need to be able to put your head down and focus.
Yeah.
If you're working on a deliverable, and you've done the collaboration portion and you really need to like hammer out a deadline, it works really well. So what we say is if you need to collaborate and be with your team, be in the office. If you guys are working on a set of CDs and you need to be heads down at home, working on that, be heads down at home. And if you have, highly autonomous professionals that appreciate and value the flexibility, then, they're on board. Like they love it. They don't want to go back. They don't want to take steps backwards. They've been able to build their lives around having a little bit more flexibility. And as long as we can maintain it, we're going to.
Yeah. Being in the office can be very distracting.
100%. I get so much more done at home.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm in the office, I'm like, okay, well, besides the commute and getting here, I probably got about half as much done.
Yeah.
I am if I'm just at home, like heads down.
Yeah, exactly.
All the things that you do without all the distractions. My biggest distraction at home is my dogs.
Yeah.
Which I'm actually surprised I haven't interrupted our call yet.
Well, a little barking we can live with, but I've got 2 little kids, so they're very distracting. I'm still waiting to put them to work, but no.
Get them trained up early.
Yeah, exactly. That's what my parents did, right? They put me to work at like 9. Don't tell the authorities. No.
Character. Look at you now. Look at you.
Look at me now. Yeah. Well, I swear to that. I mean, I do think we should put kids to work earlier, not for like, to take advantage of them or anything, but like at the end of the day, we got to learn to work, right? To produce something, to do something, to be accountable for some result, whether that's, serving a meal at a restaurant or, doing some creative, design work, graduate to hopefully more sophisticated work as we get older, right? Whatever it is. And we're seeing that in the trades, obviously, and, really starting to discourage kids from going to college. And so that's another thing, in a way, right? Not completely. We're just saying, look, you really don't need to go that path. Like there are so many better, alternatives if that's not the right path for you, right?
Yeah, it's not for everybody.
Yeah, so that's really kind of a great way to think about it. So I love that. I think that's a huge competitive advantage, and I think a lot of design professionals, they crave that flexibility, that autonomy, and not just partly for that. Wow, I'm so much more productive when everybody just leaves me alone. To also I saved so much time, and now I get to spend more time with my family, and of course I'm more than happy to come and travel to the office or site or to meet a client. because that's also an exciting part of your job too, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I didn't get to go,
That's the good stuff.
drive out and walk the property,
Yeah.
I'd probably get excited for that day, right? That's
Yeah.
the more fun part, one of the more fun parts of the job, I would think, and sometimes, right? So,
Absolutely, it is.
yeah, awesome. Okay, well, who what's the best way to get in touch with you, and who are kind of your ideal people you'd like to connect with?
Oh gosh. Well, I love people, so I like connecting with lots of pretty much everybody. But best way to contact us, I mean, our website, Thiel Team, Thiel and Team, all spelled out. We have a contact us portion on our website. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, Paige Byrd, and then find Thiel Team on LinkedIn. You'll see us. We always have the yellow ampersand, the power of and. That's something that we believe in. And so those are probably the best ways to reach out and say hello. We're always looking for project partners and developers with some really unique ideas on what their vision is for a project. So yeah, reach out to us. We'd love to talk with you.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure all that gets in the show notes and everywhere this content gets reshared, so people will be able to find that quite easily. And then, of course, pictures or design, inspiration around this project as well. I'm sure you'll share with our team, and we'll make sure to attach as much of that content as well, so you can showcase this project that you guys are working on. Thank you for being with me today, Paige. Thank you so much for listening to our People First Builders podcast. If you're a successful construction CEO and would like to tell your story on this program, please visit our podcast homepage, FletcherWimbush.com/peoplefirstbuilders, or check it out in the notes below. If you got something out of this interview and would like to share the episode on socials, we always appreciate that. Just take a quick screenshot with your phone, text it to a friend, or post it to the socials. If you know someone who might be a great guest, tag them on social and let them know. And don't forget, #PeopleFirstBuilders. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We're regularly putting out new content. To make sure that you don't miss out on any episodes, go ahead and hit subscribe on your favorite podcast channel. Your thumbs up and ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, FletcherWimbush.com, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.